To solve this pair of simultaneous equations by elimination, the first thing we do is label these equations. So I'll call this first one E1 and the second one E2. Now, looking at these two equations, what we want is to have as many x's or as many y's in both of these equations. Now we can see in the first equation we have 8 x's, and in the second we have 6 x's. Similarly, in the first we have 4 y's, and in the second we have 2 y's. So we're not going to be able to eliminate one of the unknowns right away. So the first thing we're going to aim to do is to get as many x's or as many y's in both of the equations. Now looking at the y's for a second, we can see that if we were to multiply the second equation by 2, we would end up with 4 y's, which is as many as the first equation. So let's do that. We're going to multiply the second equation by 2. When we do this, we have to multiply each and every single term of that equation by 2. So 2 times 6x would be 12x, minus 2 times 2y, which is 4y, equals to negative 2 times 12, which is negative 24. We now have a new equation E2. Don't worry, we haven't actually changed the equation. Although it looks different, it's still referring to the same equation. We've just multiplied both sides by 2. Now, we can now rewrite our pair of simultaneous equations as 8x plus 4y equals to 4, and 12x minus 4y equals to negative 24. That's E1 and E2. Now the trick to eliminate one of the two unknowns is going to be to either add or subtract one equation from the other. Now looking at these two equations, which we write on top of each other, we can see that if we were to add the 8x and the 12x, we'd end up with 20x, and similarly, if we were to add the positive 4y to the negative 4y, the y's would cancel out. In other words, we'd eliminate the y's, which is exactly what we're looking for. So let's do that. We're going to do E1 plus E2. So 8x plus 12x leads to 20x. 4y plus negative 4y leads to 0y, so they're gone. And on the right hand side, 4 plus negative 24 leads us to negative 20. We can now solve this equation, which leads us to x is equal to negative 20 over 20. In other words, x is equal to negative 1. We now have the value of x. We're halfway there. To find the value of y, we have to go back to either one of the two equations we were given at the beginning. We had 8x plus 4y equals to 4, 6x minus 2y equals to negative 12. We choose. Doesn't matter which one we use. I'll take E1, and I'll rewrite it down here. E1 was 8x plus 4y equals to 4. And what we do now is we're going to replace the x inside this equation by the x we just found here. In other words, we're going to write 8 times negative 1 plus 4y equals to 4. That leads us to negative 8 plus 4 equals to 4, which in turn, adding 8 to both sides of the equation will lead us to 4y is equal to 4 plus 8, which leads us to 4y equals to 12. Finally, dividing both sides of this equation by 4 leads us to y is equal to 3. And we now have both the solutions. The solutions to this pair of simultaneous equations are x equals to negative 1 and y is equal to 3. And we're done.